Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Goddess Victory Nikke video. I've been doing a ton of testing for the last week, and frankly, I've been a little unmotivated because I've been working on other projects like my PC, but I really wanted to get this out for you guys. I'll give you the most important information right up front, okay? Like, let's just not waste any time. You don't need both, but you probably want both. New Rey is good, new Asuka is better. Don't go crazy getting dupes unless you really like them, but I'm sure you already did all your polls anyway. They hit like a truck in the solo raid. They both want lots of elemental damage, and Asuka wants a lot of ammo. Are they better than Black Shadow Scarlet? No. Now let's actually get into the video so I can explain all the whys of why this is true. Alright, so I'll start with a quick review of Asuka's skills. Her skill 1 deals additional damage after each 50 rounds. It also deals additional final damage and makes the enemy take additional damage. Most importantly, remember that most of this doesn't happen unless she's done her burst. Her skill 2 is another one that's highly dependent on her burst. She does extra attack damage for 10 seconds and recovers HP. Unfortunately, it also tanks her heat up speed, which is that spin up time all MG users have when they start attacking after being in cover or reloading. And it completely empties her ammo, forcing her to reload. So if you want to avoid the long heat up speed, you need Rey because she buffs it. That said, Asuka doesn't take that much of a hit to her damage just from the heat up speed problem. But the forced reload really hurts, and any time you can make up from that will help. Her burst makes her normal damage go down. However, it reloads up to 21% of her ammo, gives her an attack buff, an attack damage buff, and deals final attack damage to the enemies. So a huge chunk of her damage comes from her full burst, or from her burst ability, and all the effects that her burst triggers in her other skills. So when using Asuka, I would make her your first burst 3 to go off, and definitely not put her in a third burst as just like a burst 3 DPS without bursting. This also means you do not want her to reload during her full burst because you will miss time using a ton of all of her buffs. Reloading during full burst isn't great for any unit, but for Asuka it makes a particularly big difference. So now let's talk equipment. For equipment, you want to be using the Bastion cube. It is by far the best cube for her. It's great on all MG users like Modernia, Ludmilla, etc. But again, it can help ensure that you avoid the awkward reloads and even the delay of heat up in some situations. I'll also put a high priority on those ammo lines. I've been pretty lucky with my rolls and got 3 lines of max ammo and have more than enough to make her work. Elemental damage should still be your highest priority, but I rank ammo at number 2, and I would definitely try and get at least, like 75-80%. The more ammo you can get, the better, honestly. I try and go for 3 lines like I have. In third, you have attack, which of course is great on all DPS units. If you have a line or 2 of like a random stat, hope for hit rate or crit rate. Now I'll transition into talking about Rey in a minute, but I want to talk about squads. Ideally, you have both Asuka and Rey on the same squad. Then the ultimate teammates for them are Rappy and Crown per usual. Your 5th person doesn't really matter too much, but I would just put any strong unit, like the usual suspects, right? It could be Modernia, Noir, Naga, or Helm. More on that later. Versus Kraken, they're kind of mid. Honestly, if you have Black Shadow Scarlet, just keep using her with mana, or Alice if you don't have mana. I also tried adding either Rey or Asuka to the Black Shadow team against Kraken, but it just doesn't perform as well as I would like. Individually, they can both do pretty well. I was actually surprised at how powerful Rey was once you have her built. So speaking of Rey, let's go ahead and get into her. Her first skill deals final attack damage after 18 shots, but has a lot of interplay with the anti-AT field effect like Asuka. So after 7 shots, she does more damage if the enemies have anti-AT field. She also buffs Asuka, and Asuka uses her burst and makes the effects last longer. So you're just going to get way more value out of Rey when you have her with Asuka. And it's part of the reason why Asuka does such incredibly impressive damage, because she's getting all this extra help. Now, her skill 2 is what fixes Asuka's heat up speed. Otherwise, it just gives your whole squad a small attack buff when entering full burst. It's fine. Her burst is pretty simple as well. It just deals a ton of final attack damage and buffs attack. It's good. It doesn't need to do anything else. In general, Rei plays a bit more straightforward than Asuka. For cubes, I think the best in slot is actually Resilience, but it's very close to Bastion, and my Bastion is a higher level, so I get better results with it. Your results may vary. When overloading, I would prioritize elemental damage above everything. Second best is attack, and third is ammo. Part of the reason elemental damage is so important for both Rei and Asuka is because they are wind. A huge part of what makes them valuable is the lack of many other strong wind DPS units. So the main reason to use them is specifically for attacking wind weak enemies. Now let's talk about squads. I'm also going to talk about the current solo raid at the same time. In general, I think the best squad is going to be Asuka and Rei together with Crown and Rappy, as I mentioned, and probably Naga in most cases. For this raid boss, however, it doesn't have a core, so you lose part of the value Naga can bring. So a great way to get sustainability, trigger Crown's effects, and quick charge is Helm. So if you have Helm's Treasure, you're in luck. At the time of recording, literally every single person in the top 50 on the NA server is using Helm in this squad. And it is the highest damaging squad in the raid as well. I'm not sure I've ever seen such a complete uniformity before. Under other squads, for wind damage, you'll probably want to use Sakura on one team, Black Shadow with Alice on another, Mana with Red Hood, actually, for those fast charges. And again, you don't want to pair her with Black Shadow because then you'll not have enough wind attackers like that. And then a shotgun team with Blanc and Noir, and possibly even Guilty. If you have her built up a little bit, she can deal a lot of damage. Interestingly enough, the current #1 person doesn't even use wind on one of their squads. I wouldn't really recommend you guys try this. It's an all-electric Cinderella team. I just thought that was pretty cool and worth pointing out. Anyway, one of the big questions was, can Asuka and Rei actually be better than Black Shadow Scarlet? The reality is no. Now, I did say Rei and Asuka are the strongest or highest damaging team in the current raid, but this is a very specific situation. They usually make raids in a way that will let the newest units shine. In pretty much every other scenario I've tested, even in every other scenario that I've tested, Black Shadow Scarlet / Mana does significantly more damage than Asuka / Rei. The numbers just don't lie. By the way, Asuka and Rei 1.0, the fire element versions, aren't super great in this particular raid. Just kind of going back to that for a quick, I thought this was worth pointing out. This is because the boss's shield works completely differently in this raid than the last time. So their like shield effects that are usually very good don't really work here. Basically, there's no way to take down the shield permanently. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. Asuka and Rei are good, and surprisingly pretty good even on their own, but Black Shadow is still the queen by a pretty big margin. Asuka is still the second best wind attacker though, and Rei is number 3. After that, it kind of drops off when you go to Summer Sakura, and then it really drops off a cliff after that. So I think Asuka and Rei are a good investment. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Please do all the YouTube things. Let me know if you have questions, argue with people in the comments or something. I don't know. See you in the next video or stream. Peace.